work daily. But for a new person, that's not where I would begin the conversation. Where I'd begin the conversation is right here. Her full name in gematria, Shelley Alexis Duvall, equates to 75, and she's dead at 75. And we just see this stuff day after day in Hollywood. The name she went by, Shelley Duvall, has gematria of 193. She's dead on the 193rd day of the leap year. And again, if you're new here, there are 4 base ciphers of the English language. The alphabetic order: A is 1, up to B is 2, up to C is 3, up to Z. The 26 letters 26. The alphabetic order in reverse, just Z is 1, back to A is 26. Both orders with numerology. You learn these 4 ciphers, you see the way the rituals unfold perfectly day after day. And it's way outside of the realm of coincidence every single day. Now, there's several things that could be said about the 193rd day of the year, but we'll start right here. Again, it's the 44th prime number. The Shining, the film, just turned 44 years old. It came out in 1980, May 23rd. May 23rd, 1980, debut in theaters. The word shining alone has gematria 44. 193, again, is the 44th prime number. There are so many examples of where 193 and 44 come together. But here's the latest. And keep in mind, she's dead in the time of Cancer, 4 days after her birthday. She just celebrated her birthday, July 7th. Born 7/7, dead 7/11, 4 days later. Yeah, it's funny that we associate 7/11 as this special numerical pairing, largely because of dice and gambling. There's been a lot said about the use of numbers in the film The Shining. There's a documentary on it. But anyhow, she's dead 4 days after her birthday in the time of Cancer. Remember, Cancer is the 4th astrological sign, and in gematria, Cancer equates to 44. You had the moon landing in the time of Cancer. Armstrong equals 44, like space. There's actually something to say about that, because there's a theory that Stanley Kubrick has something to do with filming the moon landing. Again, we're going to get into things like how Stanley Kubrick died 2001 days before, he died 666 days before the start of 2001. Again, he did the film 2001: A Space Odyssey. We'll bring it all together here. But anyhow, The Shining came out May 23rd, 1980. That was the 144th day of the leap year, just like this year, a leap year. It was the 144th day. CNN, they posted their article about her death at 1:44 p.m. Eastern time. If you're new here, very special number to the Jesuits, who again gave us the calendar, who gave us the language as we know it, who've synced these systems up, where it's all tracing back to. Now, a moment ago, we looked at how the word shining alone is 44. The true title of the film, though, is The Shining. The key word, obviously, shining, just like I see in the movie poster. Shining's a lot bigger than the. But the true title is The Shining. She's died 49 days after the 44th anniversary of the film. You could also say, if you count the span, that she's died on the 50th day since the anniversary of the film. It's either 49 days later or it's the 50th day. Shelley Duvall, her name in the base ciphers is also 50. So a span of 50 days from the release. And again, her name also 193, going with being dead on the 193rd day of the year. As for Jack Nicholson, from his last birthday, April 22nd, to today is 80 days later. Shining alone also has gematria of 80. If you just use the alphabetic order, it's 80. If you use the alphabetic order with numerology, it's 44. And in light of it being Thursday, maybe 6 months ago, there was the destruction of a satanic shrine in the Oklahoma Capitol. And I want to go back and say the man who destroyed it was 35 years old. And we were talking then again about 35 Thursday, about how the words Satan and Baphomet, the Baphomet's used as the symbol of the Church of Satan. Satan and Baphomet are words that have gematria of 80, like what we're talking about here, and 35, going with this coming on a Thursday. And again, this film, The Shining, is about how something evil gets inside Jack Nicholson's character and makes him want to kill his family. And we get stories like this in the news all the time, right? And Yeah, there's a lot more to say about all these things. If you've missed my past work on Rosemary's Baby and Charles Manson and that whole scene, just there's so many parallels between what they do in Hollywood and what becomes the major news stories that also live in everybody's heads. It's like these people know how to get in the minds of the masses. That's their end game, to be in people's minds, controlling their thoughts and ideas and ambitions and wants and desires. It's just like, and again, they do it through Hollywood and news and all the forms of programming. I mean, inside the average American's head, the typical person knows about The Shining. They know about Charles Manson. They know about these things. These are things that they wanted people to know about. Maybe the younger generation, 20 and under, maybe The Shining is something that's rarely talked about because, again, it is from the past. But if you're probably 30 years or older, you definitely likely you probably know the "Here's Johnny" line and everything. So from Stanley Kubrick's death anniversary, which is March 7th, to this death is exactly 18 weeks later. Stanley Kubrick's name equals 171, which is the 18th triangular number. You might remember we talked about the same thing with Jerry West. Jerry West died in that big 18 ritual, and his full name, Jerry Allen West, 171. He went 1-8 in championships in his career, and he died right before the Lakers got surpassed by the Celtics, who won their 18th championship. So Stanley Kubrick has the 171 thing. Again, that's the 18th triangular. It's exactly 18 weeks after his death anniversary. And remember, 18 special to the Jesuits. IHS, their acronym, has the gematria of 18, just like the word sun. And again, 18, special number. For a lot of countries, it's the recognized date of adulthood. In Jewish numerology, 18 represents the meaning of life. The number in Revelation, 666, you add it up, it does equate to 18. Stanley Kubrick, who did The Shining, who did 2001: A Space Odyssey, did die 666 days before the first day of 2001. If you've never looked into Stanley Kubrick, some people speculate that he did the moon landing. And check this out. Stanley Kubrick's name in gematria equates to 207, right? Today's 207 days after the Pope's birthday. There's a documentary out there. I think it used to be on Netflix. It might still be there, but it's breaking down The Shining. And he shows how one of the rooms that they focus on in The Shining, in the theory of that documentary, is that it's pointing actually to the moon landing event. And he explains why. But think, again, the moon landing is the 20th day of the 7th month, typically the 201st day of the year. Neil Alden Armstrong equals 201, like the Jesuit order, like Order of Illuminati. Again, big number with the Jesuits in their history. Pope Francis, his birth name, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, 201, the first Jesuit Pope, the first to live in Suite 201. So the moon landing on the 201st day of the year on 20/7. And as we've learned, the Jesuit priest who wrote Art of War. Again, we're going to reinvent history in that way, and I think we're reinventing it in an honest way. People always say, no, a Jesuit priest translated Art of War. No, I'm pretty sure he wrote the thing, because there's no historical record of a Sun Tzu existing anywhere, ever. But there is a long history of the Jesuits and warfare, and their logo being the sun. And again, Art of War was published right before the U.S. was founded and has been at war ever since. And you think about NASA also, it was a military operation. NASA is the military. But yes, 207, huge with the Art of War thing. 207 is what we were looking at on TFR on October 4th, saying how this 207 connected with October 7th in history, Putin's birthday. On October 4th, the day of the 10-4 alert, we were saying how in 3 days on Putin's birthday, there was this big 207 connection. And then sure enough, the war popped off in Israel, the land of 201. Again, it was all Jesuit. On Putin's 71st birthday, 71 days before the Pope's birthday, 207's coded all over the place. You just had the D-Day meeting last month, June 6th, all the world leaders gathering on the anniversary of D-Day. And that was 207 days after the Superior General's birthday. And then one of the veterans died there at age 102, like Art of War equals 102, like World War. Like the American Civil War, again, beginning on the 102nd day of the year, and Lincoln blaming it on the Jesuits, and 9/11 being simulated with Operation Amalgam Virgo, June 1st, 2001, 102 days for the 9/11 attack. with Osama bin Laden's face on the cover when Al Qaeda equals 102 as well. Anyhow, Stanley Kubrick, master filmmaker, right? So, like, where does he fit in with Art of War? Here, to make a point, Hollywood. When Bill Clinton, Jesuit educated, was president, remember Bill Clinton went to Georgetown. Georgetown equals 42 like Jesuit. He was number 42, also the 42nd governor of Arkansas. A lot of Jesuit shenanigans when he took office. 93 World Trade Center bombing. Oklahoma City Day on Ignatius of Loyola Day, April 19th, the most 201 ritual there ever was. But Bill Clinton, remember, he had the affair with Lewinsky, and it was all about the blue dress and the stain, and he never had sexual relations with that woman, and does a blowjob count as sex? The new national debate. That's the one we were all having in middle school. But hold on, train of thought lost. Oh, yeah, the movie was put out around that time by Hollywood. Wag the Dog. If you've never seen Wag the Dog, you have to watch this movie. It's so important. It's so important to understand just like the level of mockery. Because what that movie's about, and it was, I think it came out just before the whole Monica Lewinsky thing. I have to go back and double check. Pretty sure it was right before the whole Monica Lewinsky thing. Wag the Dog. A president has a sexual affair. I don't even know if fair is the right word. It's more like he has sex with a little girl. He has sex with a Girl Scout. I think they call them the Firefly Girls in the movie, but they're supposed to be like Girl Scouts selling cookies. So the president sleeps with like a 12, 13-year-old girl. And that's that's becoming the news story that this happened. And they say, oh my God, he's up for re-election in this. How are we possibly going to get re-elected with this being the story that the president's sleeping with 12-year-olds? It's kind of sick to think about how this is the movie is. And then remember when Trump beat Clinton and they're bringing up, the whole pedophile and she's the biggest pimp in the world. There's a rhyme and a reason to all these jokes. And of course, Trump also Jesuit educated and in this fraternity, and he's the proud pussy grabber and the election versus Clinton. It's all part of one big sick joke. And most people just want to be part of the punchline instead of see through it. But anyway, what happens in the movie after this affair is they say, well, how are we going to get him reelected? And then they come up with the idea. They say, oh, you cannot remove a wartime president, so we need a war. But they don't want to create a real war, so they create a war that's only existing on screens and news. And the way they come up to do that, and by the way, it's Robert De Niro who's in that movie as well, in light of what's going on with him and Trump right now. But Robert De Niro is like the master planner of the idea, comes up with the plan of the war and how they're going to do it. They go out and they get the best director in Hollywood, so like a Stanley Kubrick. And then they just have him film scenes that they put out as propaganda. And then the other part of that film is these guys who are in the government, who have access to files, they have the ability to manipulate history and add on old historical facts to the historical record that never happened, all for the sake of making a new case. Again, it's just about it's like, it's supposed to be a comedy of like a way over the top political cover up, but in a way you like look at how that happened, and shortly after that, in the time of Clinton, you had like hold on. The other part about that movie is where they make the fake war. I forget what exact country they choose in the movie, but it's super close to Bosnia, and there ends up being the war in Bosnia while Clinton's in office that the U.S. had some involvement in. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. The president's going through a sex thing, a war on almost the same part of the world. They've been making a mockery of us this whole time with all these stories of predictive programming. But if you've never seen Wag the Dog, watch that movie. And to ruin the ending for you, at the end when they pull it off, the director who made that propaganda, he wants to come out and he wants to tell people what really happened, and he wants credit for how good he was at making that fake propaganda to make everybody believe the war. And he's like losing his mind over his ego. And so they just send out like the CIA hit squad to just take care of him, and then they're breaking the news about, I forget how it ends at the end, like they're breaking the news that he died overnight of a heart attack. Tragic passing. But yeah, it's just anyway, so it just reminds me of this too, with the rumors of Stanley Kubrick and the moon landing, and again, the moon landing was about winning a military race with Russia, right? And remember, the Jesuits were preserved in Russia by Catherine the Great, who preserved the order with 201 Jesuit priests, yada, yada, yada. All these countries are part of the script. But no doubt that's why the moon landing is that day. Military operation, high Jesuit ritual. And again, here's arguably maybe Stanley Kubrick. I could be wrong about this. I want to say probably the most. He has so many. I guess he has a lot of big movies, but I probably feel like, at least in my lifetime, I was born after these movies even came out. I'm born in 1983, but it seems like out of all of his collection of movies, it seems like the most watched might be The Shining by people. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Again, almost everybody knows about 2001: A Space Odyssey, A Clockwork Orange, Eyes Wide Shut, the last film he did with Tom Cruise, of course, Full Metal Jacket. I've actually never seen Doctor Strangelove, but I know that's a huge title. So yeah, he has monster movies, and I remember when I started at Arizona State, I had a sociology professor, and he really encouraged us to watch A Clockwork Orange, and then eventually later that semester, he brought in and showed part of the film. Anyway, and that film's about mind control.